I love spending time with
like it's some sort of trophy. He's created new crashes since those two original ones, which I'll get to. Plus, if anyone can pull something like this off, it's a full stack developer, which this guy's claiming to be, aka someone who can build both the front end and the back end of a piece of software, aka someone who knows what they're doing. I'm not criticizing, I mean, he's created this thing, people are fascinated by it, it makes total sense for him to try and grow from it. He's actually become one of the fastest growing new accounts on Instagram, with his one and only main feed post hitting 2 million views before he deleted it. But the point is, this crash ain't no accident. So, to try and figure out what on earth was going on here, I had to look at all the information available. There was not a lot. Talal has no profile picture, most of the text is in Arabic. The one post he did have was a weird compilation of Monica from Friends, also with an Arabic caption, and the only personal things I could find about him were his personal account, which is private, and his TikTok account, which is literally just him focusing back and forth on the letter N. Like I said, not a lot to work with. But I thought, okay, the one thing that I can do right off the bat is to use Google Lens to translate all of this Arabic text. Turns out the caption on his post just redirects people to his personal account, and the captions on the stories that are crashing phones just translate to nice thing I passed and bittersweet thing, which wasn't quite as enlightening as I'd hoped. But then I had an idea. I thought the next best thing if I can't find any data was to create the data. So with a heavy heart, I took out one phone after the next, installed Instagram on them, visited these stories, and monitored in both horror and fascination what was happening to each. It felt like sending my babies off to torture. But I did learn something interesting. The general consensus online has been, if you have an iPhone, steer clear. But if you have an Android, you're good. That's not true. Because yes, if I view this story on a super modern Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra with 16 gigs of RAM and the latest version of Android, it is fine. If I try to view it on... That doesn't have Instagram stories. Get that? But if I try viewing it on a mid-range Nokia phone from a few years ago, it's definitely struggling with something. Not the only thing Nokia's been struggling with recently. And if I then just try it on a really cheap old Android phone, it will crash. And it will crash badly. When I tried it, it wouldn't even open the Instagram story, and from the moment I clicked it, the phone couldn't do anything. None of the buttons worked, the screen didn't work, I got a pop-up saying the whole system is unresponsive, but I couldn't act on it, because the system was unresponsive. This video, I swear, has been borderline traumatic to make, but if you are enjoying it, then a sub to the channel would be therapeutic. So we've got three groups of Android phones here. The most powerful ones are fine, the middle ones struggle but make it through eventually, and the weak ones die. So at this point I thought, oh, of course, the reason phones are crashing is that he's done something to this story that means it requires a lot of processing power or RAM to run. I never want to hear this song again. Stop! And that would also kind of explain why pretty much all iPhones were crashing, because even the highest end iPhones right now are capped at 6 GB of RAM. I knew I was on the right track, but I wasn't quite there yet. So I did what any brave soldier would do. Yeah, I asked other people. I basically assembled the Tech Avengers. I reached out to iOS developers, XDA developers, Java and Flutter developers, Android experts like Gary explains, and my number one go-to on this was Anane, who's a cybersecurity researcher at Arizona State University. And we have some answers. Okay, so the best way to understand why an Instagram story is causing phones to crash is to understand what is in that Instagram story. And as it turns out, it's a bit more than just those Arabic characters you can see. So what Anane was showing me is that if you go onto Instagram via the web and you delve into the Inspect tab, you can see all of the raw data behind every post and every story on any profile. I feel like that's a full video there just on the amount of data being collected, but the surprising thing for the purposes of this video is what we found when we inspected PG Talal's Instagram stories. So you might know that Instagram has these stickers that you can add, like a poll or a question or a countdown. They're like little widgets that anyone looking at these stories can interact with. And on their own, this isn't going to be putting any major strain on your device. But using Inspect, we can see that what PG Talal has done is created two of these elements at the same time. One of them is a countdown that was built to end on 23rd of October 2020, and one of them is a quiz, which just has the question R and 3 possible answers as D, D, and C. The contents of these elements isn't what's important. I'm pretty sure he just typed in random letters because he knew that you weren't going to see them anyways. And the reason for that is that he has managed to make them enormous. So for context, if I inspect a normal Instagram story, I'll find that the X and Y scale values for the size of each sticker element will be somewhere between 0 and 1. And it roughly means what proportion of the screen will that thing be taking up. For PG Talal stories though, the scale of these elements has 18 digits. So we're not talking about stickers big enough to fill up a single phone's display, not even hundreds, not even thousands of phones. We're talking stickers so big that they can span quadrillions and possibly quintillions of phones. Or in other words, he has made this quiz and this countdown timer so large that if we were to actually zoom out and see the whole image, it would be many, many times the size of the Earth. Do you want to know why the image looks purple on Android? Well, that's because what you're actually seeing is just part of the countdown timer. It's stretched out to enormous proportions, so you're literally looking at a tiny, tiny part of this section here. And the confetti is just what Instagram shows when a countdown has ended. And this also explains why you can't pause it, because I'm not really clicking on the story here, I'm just clicking on a non-interactive part of the countdown timer. But how? Because if I just open Instagram, I can't just keep expanding these elements indefinitely. Instagram's thought about this. Well, PG Talal has used something called an HTTP proxy, which is a type of software that allows him to see, but more importantly, modify the data that's coming out of his phone before it hits the Instagram servers. Think of it like a middleman. Talal makes a quick Instagram story with a normal looking quiz and countdown timer on his phone, but then instead of sending that story directly to Instagram and it going public, he has intercepted it using this proxy, where he has then changed those size and the location values too of these elements to something astronomical. And so what we think is happening here is that because Instagram isn't built with this scale of numbers in mind, it isn't dealing with them properly. Instagram should have
Will you be my friend? I love you. I love spending time with you. Will you be my friend? I love spending time with you.
realized that these numbers are stupidly large and filtered them out. They should have had some sort of rule that says if size is greater than 1, then make it just 1. But actually they've gone and sent these garbage values straight to your smartphone. And so, whether or not your device crashes from this story depends on how well it is able to deal with these numbers. As an overall piece of software, Android is. That's why you can still see some part of this countdown timer. So, because there isn't an error, it's not like all Android phones are just going to start crashing immediately. But it is just still generally strenuous to try and render out something this massive, hence why older, less powerful Android phones still struggle. But iOS as a whole just isn't ready to receive numbers of this magnitude. It doesn't know how to display these objects, and that's why every iPhone, regardless of how powerful they are, crashes. This is why you don't see any purple, you don't see any confetti, and instead you just see the original grey video with the Arabic caption. That on Android phones is still there, but it's sitting behind this purple countdown timer. So the crash is somewhat to do with power and RAM like I initially assumed, but it's also to do with software, and it's mostly Instagram's fault. But why? Why did Talal do this? Well, my best guess is that it's A, for a bit of fun, a bit of a challenge, but also B, to flag a problem. Facebook, who owns Instagram, they have a whole list of coders who they've actually paid money to because they've managed to find vulnerabilities and then reported them. I don't think this person is trying to break anyone's phone, because, well, first of all, every phone of mine that's crashed because of it, I have managed to recover. And secondly, plot twist, yesterday the guy himself actually replied to me from his personal account, and apparently he's only 14 years old. He is a self-taught developer who started at the age of 11, and I just think it's hilarious that he's managed to get through all of Instagram's security. And I also think he might have just hacked the Instagram chat, because I swear "you are welcome" is not a React option. Whew. Okay, with all that out of the way, there was one thing left to do. We now know that it is possible to crash someone's phone through an Instagram story. We think we know how it's done. Can we recreate it? Yes. And no. We did manage to use an HTTP proxy to intercept the story. We did manage to scale up these stickers to ridiculous dimensions, just like Talal did. Like here you can see that we have made a story that, just like his, looks purple on Android, but you can't see that purple on iOS because the iPhone can't render the countdown. But it does look like Instagram has fixed the crashing itself, because both phones survive. Talal's stories will still crash your phone, but it doesn't look like you can make a new one now that does the same thing. However, there will always be another exploit. This Talal guy just a couple of days ago posted a new story that used a completely different trick, a sequence of characters that your phone just doesn't understand, to crash Instagram. This one isn't as serious, it doesn't crash the whole phone, but it's still kind of crazy to see you literally cannot open the story because the second you try, boom, the app closes. And this crash Anane and I were able to recreate. Anane built a story literally 20 minutes later using the same technique, and sure enough, Instagram quits. The takeaway of all of this is that no software is ever going to be completely watertight, because there's always going to be an exception that the company didn't plan for. And it leads to some fascinating questions, like what if someone created a bug and then paid for adverts so that that bug was shared on every single person's device? Could they hold Instagram to ransom? Anyways, do consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Thanks again to Anane for his help on this, and if you do want to see my last video about crazy inventions, that's up here. And if you want to see Here's a fun story. I've managed to break my phone by just applying a wallpaper to it. And I'm not alone. It seems like hundreds of people in the last week have had their entire phones wiped because of this photo. I first saw it on Twitter, Ice Universe, famous leaker. He basically made a post saying, people are spreading this wallpaper, don't apply it. Please, don't apply it. But of course people did. What would he know, he's just a world-renowned smartphone enthusiast. And I don't think I've ever seen karma bite back faster. The comment section is filled with two types of responses. People who've applied it and got away with it on their phones, and who seem to be using it as a way to prove they've picked a superior device. And the other, less fortunate group, who've applied it and quickly realised they probably shouldn't have. They post their videos of their devices basically going schizo. In a lot of cases, they've had to wipe everything. Listen to the cat, people. The cat never lies. Anyways, there are three unusual things that happen here. Number one, that whether or not your device gets destroyed depends on who made it. For example, Google and Samsung, they're no-goes, don't go there. 2. If you upload the photo to a social media site like Weibo and download it again, the colors will shift to this less vibrant version, and it's safe to use. And 3, you might have noticed I've been showing you this wallpaper on my Samsung phone this whole time. And the way I've done that is just by taking a screenshot of the image and setting that as my wallpaper, which is safe too. On the face of it, none of this makes sense. So what the flip is going on here? Well, I spent the last 3 days trying to find out. Okay, my initial assumption was this is malware. Someone has obviously designed this wallpaper to conflict with the code of Android and start crashing phones. The resolution is exactly 1440 by 2560. That is the current standard Android wallpaper resolution. It has been made to apply as a wallpaper. And add to that, I've never in my life seen a wallpaper that can so consistently kill phones. What are the chances someone came across that by accident? Well, the more I dug into it, the more it seems like my initial assumption was wrong. I thought the best way to find out if something was malicious or not was to find out where it came from. So I did a reverse image search. Google Images has a clever little feature now that allows you to use an image to search for similar images. And by doing this, within 2 minutes, I traced the cursed wallpaper back to its original source. Turns out, the wallpaper being circulated around was not the original photo. This is the original photo from hdqwalls.com. And if you download the original and check the data of the image, you can see it is just a photo taken from a Nikon D850 camera. Surely that can't be the problem. This is just someone who's taken their camera to a national park. Maybe they've camped out overnight to get this stunning shot of a sunrise. That's not going to break your phone. Plus, a lot of people online were saying that the reason the cursed photo was crashing phones was because it was encoded in a color profile called Google Skier. But seeing as I now managed to get hold of the original photo, and I could see that this wasn't a Google Skier image, I applied it to my Galaxy S20 Ultra. Big mistake. Gone. Finito. Galaxy S20 Ultra, in one fell swoop, nuked. I couldn't get past my lock screen, and even safe mode wouldn't let me recover it. All data on that phone that I didn't back up is gone. And I won't lie to you, this felt like that part in a detective movie where the detective gets too involved in a case, and the criminal isn't happy about it, so he starts taking away family members from me. I've lost my data trying to fight for this cause. I thought it would be okay. I thought this is the original image, it's just a photo, this can't be the problem. But I was wrong, and I'm a little bummed. But a sub to the channel would be amazing. But anyways, we can see that this crashing then wasn't caused by some malicious third party who tampered with the image afterwards, like I'd initially suspected. It's the original photo that's enough to break your phone. So that just leaves the question, how? Okay, let's talk about color for a minute. Take a look at this diagram. This represents all the colors that us humans can see. This triangle inside of it, that's the sRGB color space. It's a subset, it's a small section of the full range of color. And more importantly for this case, it's the only set of colors that Android really understands. So yes, most Android phones historically, they haven't been able to display the full range of color, but they're limited like this for the sake of consistency. sRGB is what almost every device is calibrated to. Digital cameras, printers, the internet. So by having an operating system based on it, you can ensure that, let's say I post something on Instagram for example, then when you see that post on the other end, it can make sure that you're seeing it in the way that I intended it. Or that when I see a photo online and I print it out, it should look pretty similar to the preview I saw on screen. But there are many different color spaces. You've got Adobe RGB as an example, which has a wider range of color. Or if you wanted to go a bit crazy with things, Pro Photo RGB, which is this huge triangle here. And this all seems really complicated, but all it means for this is that if I convert an image from sRGB to Adobe RGB, it's going to effectively stretch the color space. The color that was previously here gets mapped to here. So this is a random photo I took a few days ago in sRGB, and moving it to the wider Adobe RGB, it just gets more vibrant. And the same will happen again if we move from Adobe to Pro Photo RGB, because these points are moving to these points. So what's that got to do with the sunrise of nightmares? Well, it turns out Pro Photo RGB is the color space that this photo is encoded in. And you can see the appeal of doing this. Now that I know how it was encoded, I can actually flick it back to standard sRGB, and it becomes this. This is the true original photo, and all of a sudden, it doesn't look so hot. So whoever took the photo probably just thought, oh, I really like the colors in Pro Photo RGB mode, I'll just export it that way. And this explains what I mentioned earlier about Weibo. Weibo doesn't support this ultra-wide color space. So if you upload a ProPhoto encoded image to Weibo, the reason it changes is because it's actually being converted back to sRGB. So okay, we've established that something about this color space is causing a problem, but it's not as simple as that, because Android can actually handle ProPhoto. Even though Android supports sRGB only, it is programmed to convert images from other color spaces back to sRGB, just so it can have that level of consistency. Trust me, I wish this was simpler too, but we're nearly there. It seems like this conversion is actually where the problem is, where Android is trying to turn this ProPhoto into an sRGB image. That's the bottleneck. And you won't believe this, the reason these devices are crashing all comes down to one pixel. This one right here, according to David, who I was talking to about this. Google's color engine can't for the life of it convert this one pixel to sRGB, specifically because of the luminance of it. Luminance is basically brightness, but just adjusted for the way that we humans actually see things. Because you might know this, humans see green tones far better than we see red tones, and we see reds better than we see blues. So the luminance of a pixel on Android is calculated by this formula. It gives green the most weight, then red, and then blue. To put it another way, you need a lot of blue light to give the same luminance as a little bit of green light. Anyway, the max value of red, green, or blue individually is 255. So the way this code is put together, you shouldn't be able to get an overall combined value past 255, because all the formula is really doing is taking a weighted average. But for this one particular pixel, it just so happens that the red, green, and the blue values are all incredibly high. 255, 255, and 243. So plugging it into the formula, we get red as 54.213, green as 182.376, and blue as 17.5446. If you add all this up, you get around 254, which is still under 255. So what's the problem? It turns out Google uses a type of rounding that basically rounds each one of these numbers up. So those RGB values actually end up as 55 plus 183 plus 18, which gives 256, which is over the theoretical maximum of 255. Error. One number in one pixel is enough to send your device into this spiral of doom. In a normal situation, when Android encounters a problem like this, it'll try to close the process. But by setting it as your wallpaper, Android can't just close it. You're creating a permanent loop of errors as it keeps trying to fix itself and fails. And this also explains why screenshots of the image are safe. There's a bit of a misconception with screenshots. When you screenshot a photo, your Android phone is not making a copy of the photo. It's creating a new image that by default is going to be an sRGB shot, because it's Android. So that conversion that's causing all the crashes doesn't need to occur. If you're wondering why only some devices are broken by the wallpaper, it's because they're all phones that use Google's default color engine, which is the part that's messing up the conversion. As for whether you should worry about it, not really. I mean, obviously don't apply this wallpaper, ever, but a bunch of developers have been working for hours continuously trying to recreate the error, and we couldn't. So the chances that you're going to see this popping up in other wallpapers, I think, is pretty low. But just for peace of mind, the next Android 11 should be fixing this problem anyway. It is a pretty easy one to solve. You just need one line of code that says, if this value is above 255, then make it 255. Anyways, this has been a stressful video to make. If you enjoyed it, do consider subscribing, and huge thanks to Michal on Twitter and David, who's working on his own custom ROM called POSP right now. Those guys have helped out massively with this. With that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one. I've just wasted $450 on one of the most elaborate scams in existence, and for some reason the UK government was promoting it. 5G. you've heard about it 1,000 times already. You might love it, you might be kind of interested but just a bit bored of hearing about it, or you might be in the increasingly vocal community of people who hate it. I've seen with my own two eyes people who say that 5G is being used by the military to control us, that 5G is what's caused the virus that's going around, and even that lockdown is just the government's way of installing 5G towers all over the place without people being able to stop them. But fear not, the 5G BioShield is here to save us, using none other than proprietary holographic nanolayer catalyst technology. I'm sorry, what? Proprietary holographic nanolayer catalyst? It sounds a bit like someone's just jumped to random pages of a chemistry textbook and picked the first words they saw. But I gave them the benefit of the doubt. I spent a full day, in fact, reading through everything this website had to say. They say that in our modern world, we're surrounded by EMF, or electromagnetic fields. And this is true. There are electromagnetic fields everywhere. Everything from your smartphone to your microwave contributes to this. But that's pretty much the only correct piece of science on the entire website. They go on to say that 5G makes these fields much stronger, to the point where they're dangerous, and that you need to use their product to shield yourself. So the way this apparently works is you plug it into your computer and it creates a 40-meter force field around you. And if that doesn't already sound ridiculous enough, they claim that even without power, even if you're just carrying this in your bag with you, it can still create a permanently protective, and I quote, plasmic shield of 8 meters. Now, where have I heard of plasmic shields? Oh yeah, Star Wars. The shield apparently uses, can't even make this stuff up, quantum oscillation to restore the coherence of atoms and emit life force frequencies. The Force. Star Wars. I feel like a link is forming. And it was at around this point that I thought, for goodness sake, I've got to try it. I've got to make 100% sure that this is in fact the pile of garbage that it looks like. So I ordered one. And the purchase process was about as shady as the science behind it. It's listed at £283, but the second you add it to the cart, you quickly realise they're going to add sales tax on top of that. Companies don't usually do that in the UK. And when you factor in the additional £12 shipping fee, this ends up at £351.60. And of course, the only way to pay is a direct bank transfer, which has zero payment protection. So I stomached it. I thought, this is £350 I'm not expecting to see again. But a sub to the channel would be amazing. Miracles do happen. 2 weeks later, a little package dropped through the door. I picked it up. I immediately knew what it was. I sprinted to the studio, ripped open the box, and smashed it into my computer. Wow! This is the best thing I've ever seen in my life! And thanks to quantum nanoparticle electroforcism, you can get the effects just by watching through your screen. You're welcome. Okay, no. It is exactly what it looks like. This is a USB stick. And in fact, the only surprise I had here was the fact that its total capacity maxes out at 120 megabytes. I've even been so kind as to drop a full 25-page document on there, which includes a before and after health summary from people who've been using the Shield. It says that most users report reverse aging by 18 years. So according to that, I'm about to turn 7. It makes these definitely real reviews of the product a little suspect. I'm thrilled by the science on which basis the device has been created. I'm not a physicist, don't say. But I understand partially with my intuition. Daniela says, the people I work with seem to be more happy and laugh more. This I could believe. And this one's my favourite. The item you have created is not only ingenious, but exquisitely beautiful in design. All of this speaks to me about the people you are, so I want you to know that I appreciate you as well as what you're doing, namely contributing towards a new heaven on earth. Right, let me try and put some perspective on the sheer stupidity of the words being written here. Heaven on earth, it's a USB. It registers as a USB. And guess what? It took me 5 minutes to find an almost identical product on AliExpress. It's the same color, it's got the same poor build quality, it's $3. And you wanna know the best part? That one has more storage. The single difference between this product and that listing is a sticker. Not anymore. But you know what's worse? Is that this whole operation is run by 2 scientists. My assumption when I first came across BioShield was, okay, this is obviously stupid. It's probably run by 2 people who don't know what they're talking about. People who didn't understand the science, and people who themselves were just convinced by their own theories. But that's not what's happening here. These guys more than likely knew exactly what they were making here. And even if they somehow believe the stuff they've written on the site to start with, then surely at the point when you're on the purchasing page for a $3 USB stick, which is actually what you're about to send to customers, something must have clicked. This is not people being delusional. This is a very deliberate scam. But wait, there's more. I know. Kill me now. It turns out the Glastonbury Town Council in the UK, the official government-funded body, they set up an advisory council for 5G, and they recommended this product. Their exact words were, "We use this device and we find it helpful. It does one thing, and it does that one thing so poorly that if I wanted to fit this one video file on these BioShield sticks, I'd need to buy 250 of them. It would cost me $100,000. In what world is that helpful?" It looks like what happened is it was just one person who said, "I've used this, I can recommend it," and nobody else batted an eyelid. But come on, I mean, it doesn't take a genius. But probably the weirdest part of this scam is that, compared to most schemes like this, where companies make a quick buck by being super vague about what's going on, this company has an answer for everything. A group of people called the Pen Test Partners, they took one of these things apart and they said to the company, "Look, we can see it's a USB stick. What do you have to say for yourself?" And I couldn't believe it. A spokeswoman from the company actually replied. She said, "We're in possession of a great deal of technical information, with plenty of backup historical research. As you can understand, we are not authorized to fully disclose all this sensitive information to third parties." Ah, yeah, of course. The secrets stay with you. And the Glastonbury 5G committee. And the directors of Star Wars. We've got an FAQ on their website, and someone's asked, can I use an electromagnetic field meter to be able to test that it is in fact reducing the radiation? It's a fair question. Using a meter would be the best way of testing if it's actually doing anything. But they actually had the audacity to say, no, your meter only measures the intensity of the EMF, which our device doesn't change. Our device only changes the form of the EMF. And oh my god, guess what? Only they have the tools to be able to measure that. How do we know if it's on and working? Great question, let's see what they say. It is always on and working. That's why we used quantum nanolayer technology. Oh, yes, makes sense. Anyways, I spent 3 days in total just looking into this stuff, and while it did start off funny, I think by the end of it I was actually a bit worried. It turns out 5G BioShield is just one of many schemes like this. There are anti-5G blankets, there are washes, and believe it or not, underwear. I even found a company called Vortex who's selling anti-5G charms. It's genuinely on the same level as wearing a piece of garlic around your neck to keep the vampires away. And if you thought we'd already hit peak stupidity, then you'd be wrong. A very quick search on YouTube shows videos that claim to use a certain vibrational frequency to shield you from 5G. Genius. So I'm going to finish this video with a very simple message. If anyone you know is considering buying one of these, tell them not to. If this ever pops up on an Instagram or a Facebook advert, which it might well do after watching this video, don't buy it. Please, don't buy it. And with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one. Voice assistants are kind of disappointing. When Apple first launched Siri on the iPhone, putting what seemed like a personal receptionist into our pockets, we thought the future is here, people. Finally something I can get on board with. But even nearly 10 years after that, the reality of it isn't quite there. Do you love me?
There are many types of love, but ours is just as friends.
So, I've designed 50 questions to ask to the 4 most popular voice assistants out there. Google Assistant, Amazon Alexa, Apple Siri, and Samsung's Bixby. Questions that try to test the different forms of intelligence. And to keep it simple, each time one of them does what I'd class as a satisfactory job, it gets a point. If it gives me a useless response or it takes ages, it won't get a point. Okay, let's start with the maths section. 26 times 25. 26 plus 25 times 26. Now divide it by 5 times. And now multiply that by 999 times. Convert 25 ounces to grams. Okay, now to see how well each assistant can control the devices they're running on. Turn Wi-Fi off. increase screen brightness by 5%. Change my wallpaper. Turn on dark mode. So you can see an ability to control the device is an area that Amazon's Alexa isn't really for. But now just for some general internet queries, what I think a lot of people currently use their assistants for. What's the weather today? What's the weather tomorrow? What's the weather this time next week? Play DNA by BTS. Tell me a fact about BTS. Who is Robert Downey Jr.? How tall is he? Does he have children? Take me to the Wikipedia page of Robert Downey Jr. Is he stunning? Show me restaurants in London. Show me the highest rated Chinese restaurants in London. Is Formula 1 cancelled this year? When did England win the Rugby World Cup? Call Theatre Royal. Make a reservation at Theatre Royal. Show me Jackie Chan movies. Tell me more about Rush Hour. How much did the film gross? And which other actors are in it? So you can probably tell that all 4 assistants can answer your internet queries to some extent, but what we're going to test now is something more challenging, the ability to exercise control within your applications. Show me my photos from 2020. Which of them had cats in them? Set an alarm for tomorrow at 9 AM. How far is it from New York to New Jersey? Can you give me the directions? Open the App Store. Send a file using Send Anywhere. Play a song on YouTube. Tweet. Search Twitter for Aaron Maney. Send an email to Dave Finchley. Okay, and to round it off, just a general miscellaneous questions section. Just novelty things that you might ask your assistant, but which can actually be quite a good indicator of intelligence. What's my name? That's not how you pronounce it. Remind me to pick up the keys in 10 minutes. Now, delete that reminder. Do you have any pets? Tell me something good. Show me an inspirational piece of music. Recommend me a great vacation spot. Start a timer for 5 minutes. Tell me a joke. So, that leaves us with Amazon and Bixby in joint last place, Siri quite a long way ahead in second, and then Google Assistant in first. A couple of interesting things I noticed while doing that. For starters, that Amazon Alexa is actually capable of quite a lot, but for an average user, it probably won't do a lot. To really get the most out of it, you need to start using Amazon Photos, you need to get your contacts to sign up for Alexa messaging, you need to invest your time in teaching it Alexa skills. And when you do all that, it is a great way to control your smart home, but to be honest, it's probably more hassle than it's worth just to control a smartphone. Bixby is no better. I like the fact that it can control your device settings, like your Wi-Fi, like your Bluetooth. But Bixby's main problem, and this sounds kind of harsh to say, but it's true, it lacks intelligence. It's slow, for starters, and if you start talking before the Bixby bubble has come up, it'll miss the start of your sentence. Plus, it's just not very good at context. What application am I currently in? What was the last thing I said? If you think about when you have a conversation with someone, context is incredibly important when it comes to what your last sentence means. Considering that Samsung has built Bixby and they built it for Samsung devices, it doesn't feel nearly as polished as it should. Siri is a lot better. You can fiddle with your wording and talk at a normal volume, and it'll still know what you're trying to say most of the time. I would say Siri reaches its limits in continued conversation, and it does sometimes miss the context of what you're saying, but it is leagues ahead of the other two. That leaves us with Google Assistant, which is the closest to feeling like that personal receptionist we thought we were getting 10 years ago. It's fast, and the fact that you can issue a continuous stream of commands and the phone understands the context of them genuinely starts to blur the line into, dare I say, something conversational. There is a way to go, but I feel like we're starting to get closer to jumping that barrier between feeling like you're shouting commands at your phone and just feeling like you're able to just talk to it. And I feel like once we cross that, the popularity of voice assistants could just blow up. There are some things I haven't covered in this video that assistants can do, like the smart home control and the ability to set routines, which are just multiple actions that can be triggered together with a single command. But I think the results we got in this simplified test are actually quite representative of the general capabilities of each assistant. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this, do consider subscribing, that would be amazing. We're trying to hit 5 million subscribers by the end of the year. And with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one. That's not just bad, that's criminal. You're about to witness the worst product to have ever graced humanity, but for some reason, people are buying it, and people are raving about it. So the other day I was browsing for the best smartphone gadgets of the month, and I came across this peculiar device. Mobile phone and Wi-Fi radiation harmonizer. And I was not expecting the journey that this was about to take me on. Trust me, this starts strange and just keeps getting stranger. So what it says is that all your smart devices emit positively charged electromagnetic radiation. Your phone, your computer, that cell tower 5 miles from your house. It says that this radiation causes symptoms like sickness, dizziness, or, and I quote, hot head syndrome, and that the solution is this product right here. It does look a bit like a sticker, but there are some really strong reviews here. My goodness, I can feel the difference already. The aching in my hands is permanently gone. Now my phone never heats up anymore, it's permanently cold. And I quickly realized that these radiation harmonizers are a much bigger thing than just this one website. Even Amazon is full of them, sometimes costing extortionate amounts of money, but again, with very positive ratings. So I thought, okay, something's going on here. Are there any other products like this? I couldn't believe it. There's the NO band, which apparently creates a harmonizing field of negative charge to neutralize the harmful positive charge. There's the Stellar Dome, which you place on the floor in a room and has been tested 100% effective against 5G. There's anti-radiation bears, plates that rejuvenate your food, an ionic air cleaning wand, and most curious is the GeoCleanse. This seems like their flagship product. It can plug into the mains and apparently harmonize the entire perimeter of your building, neutralizing over 30 forms of noxious radiation. And the reason this one is interesting is that because it's an actual electronic gadget, in theory we could take it apart and see how it works. Or prove it's a scam. So I ordered it. In fact, no, I ordered pretty much every single product on this entire website. And sure enough, 2 weeks and 700 Australian dollars later, harmony was restored. My order arrived, and in it was a lifetime supply of protection. Enobands, Stellar Domes, rejuvenation plates, Harry Potter weapons, stickers, radiation harmonizers, and a permanently energized koala. But I think what this company didn't quite anticipate was their customers having an actual electromagnetic field meter. Check this out, this is telling us the amount of radio frequency radiation in this room right now. Right now it's basically nothing, because it's not next to any RF devices, but if I bring a phone in front of it, it does shoot up. And check this, if I then send a text message from that phone, it goes haywire. Now this might seem alarming, and it might make it look like the website was telling the truth all along, except for the fact that almost all of this radiation is microwave radiation. think about throwing that. Which, on the electromagnetic spectrum, is even less powerful than the radiation of just visible light. So much less powerful that actually the most powerful microwaves are only about 1/1500th of the power of the least powerful visible light rays. But anyway, let's apply this radiation harmonizer. As I put it on. That's all this is. Okay, but what if we put the N-band on? But maybe we need 3 of these products. Let's put the Stellar Dome down. Gotta get one of these rejuvenation plates under there. Let's get the koala in there. What do I do with the wand? Vada Kedavra. And hey, if you are enjoying this video, then a sub to the channel would be magical. But seriously, I can't believe it. Like, who do they think we are? This is a stick of plastic. It's got to be one of the simplest, cheapest products ever to be manufactured. Even Wish.com would be laughing about this. Oh, shut up. And finally, we've got the GeoCleanse. Now, the website does specifically say that it's been programmed to neutralize noxious electromagnetic radiation. But tell me this, how do you program a bar of soap? Well, no, to give it some credit, it is a bit harder than soap. It's more like a resin. But the point is, this plug, 10 amps, 240 volts, leads to nothing. Like, I'm assuming if we just stick it off. That's the other side of the plug. Now, just to make absolute sure, hammer GeoCleanse. Oh, wow. Okay. Yep, just a plug. That'll do it. And let me just reiterate, I spent $180 on that. It was backed by hundreds of positive reviews across many, many websites, but all it is was a block of plastic and maybe a fire hazard. But it's only when I found the supposed science behind all this that things started to get really concerning. Welcome to The Gift That Keeps Giving, their YouTube channel. Do you remember that product description that said it had been tested for 100% effectiveness against 5G? Well, this is how that test was conducted. They do one experiment without GeoCleanse, which basically consists of someone prodding various parts of this woman's body and concluding that, yep, her organs are not happy with 5G, and then doing the exact same thing again with a GeoCleanse plugged in and just concluding that, oh, yeah, she's fine now. That's literally the equivalent of, oh guys, did you know that I've got an IQ of 690? Look, I'll prove it. Yep, 690. It's not how you do a study. But it gets worse. They then start waving this rod around in front of her. They call it a biotensor, and they're using the fact that it's moving in a circle instead of moving in straight lines to show that her body's being affected. But I can literally see his hand controlling it to do that. Great experiment, guys. I'm pretty sure my cat has that toy. He doesn't like it right now. Anyways, just to make absolute sure that all of this is bogus, I decided to book myself in for a consultation. So, for the price of $50, they will search up your home on Google Maps, and I guess based on what it looks like, advise you on your current radiation situation. So, I created an account, and I set my location to North Sentinel Island, which is arguably the most remote location in the entire world. It's actually inhabited entirely by a tribe called the Sentinelites, who are possibly the only humans on this planet completely without technology. Kind of crazy, no phones, no TVs, no internet, they still hunt with bows and arrows, and nothing close to a Wi-Fi connection. So if there's ever going to be a population that doesn't have to worry about radiation, it's this one. Anyways, my consultation boiled down to a series of emails. The guy started by saying he loved the look of my island, but couldn't find any houses on it. No surprises there. So I just sent him a photo of a random tent I found on Google Earth. And then after a few more back and forths, like what part of the island I was from, I got my answer. Now, what I was expecting was for this guy to say, oh yeah, you're surrounded by 5G waves and that you should buy our products to save you. How? Wait. And if he did say that, then that would pretty much prove that they were making it up, because modern technology doesn't even exist at that location. But the actual answer that I got was far stranger. I think this person realized who I was based on the email address I was sending him, and then looked up photos of me, and based on those photos, came to the conclusion that my biofield has a positive charge, and that because of this, I have the Epstein-Barr virus. Or, in other words, can confirm, not true. But also, it enlightened me how does one measure the charge of a person through a JPEG image of them? What are you, like, scanning the pixels of my face with an electrometer? Anyways, all of this just leaves one question. These products are about as useful as paper oil. Keep paper down. They're extraordinarily expensive, and they're backed by science that feels less real than the entire Harry Potter universe. Why are people buying it? And why are people liking it? Well, turns out, this started in the 1900s with a guy called William Wright. He decided that there was something called orgone, a massless substance that was all around us in the air. That orgone was central to life, and that the lack of orgone was what led us to problems. This idea stuck, and then as computers and phones started ballooning, tech became the enemy, and orgone became the solution. And possibly the most pivotal and successful product in this lane was a I've got one right here. Basically, this thing claims to change your life. The box says it will give you more vitality, greater focus, improved performance, less fatigue. This thing was praised by The Times, The Mail, ITV, and of course it doesn't need batteries because, well, the copper induction coil means it can be powered by the wearer. But do you want to know what's funny? They used to say that the source of power was a circuit board that they had printed onto earlier models, except this circuit didn't connect to the coil, or to a battery, or to itself. It wasn't actually a circuit at all, which is why they then had to change the design and start including a little slip with every feeling they sent, which says, no party involved with fueling makes any claim that any of its products are intended to prevent, cure, mitigate, treat, or diagnose disease. You must not rely on any information provided as an alternative to medical advice. That's only like half of it, but the point is, if you're already telling me that I can't rely on the information you're giving, then how on earth is this still allowed to be on sale? This is not a new branch of science, it is literally taking existing science and making it wrong. But this is where things get really bizarre, because it was at this point that I realized that the issue is bigger than stickers and wands and pendants. If you start searching for general orgone products, you'll find pyramids with over 2,000 5-star ratings on Amazon, orgone generators, which for some reason don't require a power source. There's even a $5,000 5G fighter, super big legit apparently. But just look at the first 7 pictures of ingredients in it. Polymer resin, so plastic, copper, iron, steel, glass, aluminium. So basically what you're saying is, I should just sit in my tool shed. Look, I'm not saying that as humans there aren't things out there that we can't see and experience. There probably are. But what I am saying is that if I am sick, then sitting next to $5,000 metal poles or plugging a bar of soap into the mains is not going to solve my problems. But the reason that these products still work against all odds is that they convince people that there's a problem, they establish themselves as an authority, and then they offer themselves as the solution. Almost all of these product descriptions start with something like, have you ever felt a headache? Or have you ever felt you had tired eyes? To which, of course, people are going to be like, well, yeah, actually I have. They follow up by telling you that this is not normal, and that the problem is either your phone, or Wi-Fi, or 5G, or some combination of those. They establish themselves as an authority, a company who knows better than you. And then they finish by saying, buy our stuff to fix that problem. You might have heard of the confirmation bias, this idea that when we believe something, then we tend to focus on information that confirms those beliefs. So, providing that companies like this make us believe that their products will fix our problems, then when we get these products, we'll convince ourselves that they do. Like, one of GeoCleanse's recommended tests is to plug it in, and then put your hand against a fridge. They say you should feel like a calming sensation. It does actually feel nice. But the point is, it's got nothing to do with GeoCleanse. Because they're priming people to be ready for good things to happen when they use their products, then when good things do happen to customers, those customers attribute those good things to the products. The only actual proof that these things work comes from customer feedback. That's a self-reinforcing cycle. As more and more people leave positive reviews for this stuff, then it's even more likely that the next customer is then going to also believe they work, and then trick themselves into thinking that they're seeing positive benefits from them. These are nothing more than extremely expensive placebos. And while there is a time and place for placebo products, creating the problem to then sell a placebo is borderline evil. And I do not believe that whoever made this doesn't know what they're doing. Because if you can't manufacture something like this, you can't set up factories and create the molds and inject those molds in plastic and not realize what you're doing. It's disappointing. Just me, or is the trend meant to have an A in it? If you enjoyed this video, then I've got a really fun guide to crypto for people who know Today we've got a goal. I've set a budget of $5,000, and we're going to use it to buy the tiniest tech products on the entire internet. Alright, let's start simple. Mini smartphone. Great start. Oh, wish.com. We're here already. Let's see what's out there. Pounds. Oh, wide screen, that's tiny. Oh, look at this. We've got a £94 mini smartphone here with a 1% discount. Wish, you're too kind. Okay, there's a luxury mini phone here. That'll be interesting. So this one describes itself as small, tight beauty, strong performance. I feel very, very reassured. Oh, they've got a rugged mini phone. That's curious. Oh, we've got an iPhone-like notch up top here. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's tiny. Okay, I think it's one of those we'll believe it when we see it. Really? You do wonder, will a phone this small actually function like a bigger one? Like, something's got to give, right? The King Kong Mini 2. I feel like King Kong is the worst possible name. What if we search for a mini speaker? That's pretty small. I think we can do better. Okay, that is very small. Is that going to sound better than the phone speakers? That is tiny. That's like this big. It says that has a 4K camera in it. I've got the word camera wrong. A mini camera. Oh, these are all spy cameras. They've got a 1080p hidden camera inside a die. I don't want to try it, but it's weird. I just wanted like a little DSLR. I was thinking like, how small can we go? No way. That fits on a keychain. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. We've got tiny cameras. Just seeing this as like a standalone camera. This one's just adorable. I feel like we've got to try this as well. Okay, mini MacBook. I don't know what I'm hoping for here, to be honest. Oh, okay. Tiny laptop. Alright, that passes the small test. I think better go. Oh, what about a mini car? It's just going to be a toy car, isn't it? Oh, we can go for World's Tiniest Mouse. That'll do us just fine. That's so tiny. Mini flashlight. Oh, there's some very bold claims about brightness here. That looks ridiculous. Okay, we have one here. It's not a mini flashlight, but this is claiming to be 9 billion lumens. So we can either get 9 million lumens, or we can get 9 billion lumens for an extra £10. Anyways. Okay, so this is a mini projector that fits in your hand and can apparently create a 100-inch display. What about milliamp? 10,000 milliamp hours, that's not good. So we've got one here that's made to look like a fuel canister, and it's so small you can carry it on your keys. Oh, we've got to get it in the fridge, of course. Fridge. That is perfect. Doesn't look fun at all. There's got to be a better way of doing it than that. I wonder how small a phone could go if it's a smartphone. God, the Zanko. Oh, we've got a mini flip phone. That's half the size of it. $70, but this is claiming the world's smallest phone. So we've got to get that one. That's a no-brainer. The very last thing I just want to check is how small can we go if we don't even need a mini phone that turns on? Wow, that's unbelievable. Someone's made, like, actual mini iPhones. It's like a full-on unboxing experience of them as well. That's incredible. That's so small. What if we just go... They actually have one. That is everything I wanted from this video and more. Right, I've got to stop before I end up actually buying a dollhouse. Okay, let's fast forward a month when hopefully all this stuff has arrived. It didn't all arrive, but I think I slightly underestimated how many things I ordered. So, thanks to third-party VPN for making that possible, and let's do it. Some small, tiny... Right, let's start with the fridge. Oh, it feels extremely cheap and cheerful. Let's power this bad boy up. It doesn't exactly inspire confidence, but let's test it. So, because I'm British, here's a cup of tea I made earlier. So you can see right now the temperature is hovering at about 65 degrees Celsius. So let's get it in. Close it up and come back to it at the end and see what temperature it can cool it to. This one, I'm weirdly excited. I'm not the kind of person who gets excited about vacuum cleaners, but yeah, that's adorable. This is the hose on the inside. More complex than it needs to be. Okay, battery's in. Oh. Ow. It's a proper solid job, this. Okay, so we brought up some flour from downstairs. We're just gonna... On the table. Alright. Let's do it. It does actually work, to be fair. Not what I was expecting, but I'm ready to go. But I do feel a bit like a short crust pastry. Okay, this is, I think it's the world's smallest laptop. That is very, very small. Oh, it's got little pads on the bottom. This feels like designed like a MacBook. Really, really curious. Like, what would it be like to use this? The fans are okay. To be fair, it sounds a lot like my MacBook too. I'm just showing Milo. He's a fan. It's not the fastest machine, but there is something novel about having a full Windows operating system that's a quarter of the size of a laptop. That's good engineering. And then my computer Mac. Milo. He's like, why are you taking it away from me? It's like it's little brother. Okay, so this is, I mean, according to where I bought it, apparently the power of the sun. This one's almost the same design shrunk down. This one's cool, look at it. Alright, this is the smallest flashlight. This is what it can apparently do. Let's test it. You can just about tell it's on. My disappointment is immeasurable. And this is the biggest. 9 billion lumens. Here we go. Ooh. Ooh. That's not bad. This is our bladeless neck cooler. So ridiculous. Kind of like it. It's pretty much just cooling my neck, so my head is like this temperature, my neck is here. It's also quite comforting. It feels like someone's giving you a hug. Oh, and you can turn it up. Maybe MacBook levels. This is very exciting. I don't know if it's the world's smallest, but it's one of the world's smallest projectors. And that is literally it. How do we test a projector here? My test? Well, we've got a Nintendo Switch, my cable, and a secret ingredient. We have power. It does work. Not the brightest or highest resolution, but for the size, not bad. Videos look good. We've got one set of earphones. That was stickier than I would have hoped. And these are actually a pair of earphones that do not exist in real life. They're the Beats TWS3 wireless. It's actually pretty nice. But I wonder how the... Everything about it is just poor. On the bright side, you do have an LED in the earphones, and the case does tell you the battery percentage, which is falling every time I look at it. But yeah, this is probably the most budget true wireless earphone experience I've ever had. Yeah. One of them doesn't work. Ooh, let's check on the teeth earlier. These cats. Okay, now we've got phones. We've got lots of phones. So, instead of watching me unbox 15 products back to back, let's do them all at once. Guys, this is incredible. You know what the best part is that for once on these types of videos, I don't feel like I've been lied to by the photos. These are genuinely tiny. Let's get them in size order and then see which ones we... we like. So this is our luxury mini phone, and I'm kind of surprised how much I like it. Because it's so thin, and it's got this leather-like material on the back, it's crazy comfortable. Like, I'm just not used to phones that are this usable with one hand. My thumb could probably stretch across 2 of these. 7 out of 10. And now we've got a little bit of like a chubby iPhone 10. To be honest though, apart from that camera layout, it's very standard. The camera, for some reason, it just has the text megapixel. So I guess we can assume it has 1. Feels like a 4 out of 10. This one's surprisingly good. I like the way it looks, and the screen is bright. It kind of looks a lot like an OLED screen, which means the blacks are dark enough that it hides the border. Also, it's actually just pretty smooth. 8 out of 10. Okay, yet another iPhone clone. Oh, okay. So we've got a white iPhone style bezel, but then inside of it you've got another set of bezels, basically. One could say we have an iPhone-y on our hands. And why do companies feel the need to put text like that on the back? I'd give this one a 5. Okay, I'm particularly excited about this one because this one is inspired by Huawei's Porsche design limited edition phones. They're like 2.5 grand. And I do get the impression of quality here, like this one feels in particular very firmly constructed. And I like the contrast between the plastic rails and the glossy buttons. It's like a weird level of attention to detail for something as cheap and cheerful as this. Let's try the camera. Probably going to be disappointed. Oh, it's so bad. Why gotta do me like that? 7 out of 10. I kind of hate this one. It's trying to look like an iPhone, right? It's got the iPhone camera, the iPhone flash. It's even got a notch on the front. But it's a keypad phone. It's a non-smart brick phone that's just trying to jump on the bandwagon. And it doesn't really pull it off. 3 out of 10. So this one is iPhone number 2. I actually really like the way it looks from the back. That white and silver combo, that is one of the colours on the iPhone 10, and it doesn't look far off. But I think the front is even worse than the other one. Pretty smooth phone though, all things considered, and the home button does work well. So, 6 out of 10? I have to know what to think about this one. Because on one hand, if I'm just holding it in my hand and using a cursory glance at it, I can think, oh my god, he's got an iPhone 11 Pro, but it's a third of the size that it should be. In which case, it has achieved its goal. But, I mean, just look at the front. I think my calculator has prettier buttons. So it kind of reminds me of the iPhones we had earlier, like this one. They've obviously trimmed some sort of corner to make it even smaller, and they've definitely made some sort of compromise to the screen. But still though, there is some part of me that's just impressed that like, this is full Android. Like, look how tiny some of these icons are. How often do you see that? Okay, but now we are going down a serious step in size. This is mini. It's got more bezel than screen. It sounds like me when I used to play record it. So this is not running a full smartphone operating system. It's more like a smartwatch operating system, but it is still touchscreen. You know what the really impressive part is? It has a headphone jack. And it also has a camera. Although, as with most of these things, I can't vouch for how that looks. It feels like there's a certain size beyond which you start to make some major compromises. But this is a really interesting case study, because this one is a phone that isn't trying to be like a big phone that's then shrunk down. This was made to be the world's smallest 3G phone. Sorry, $70 for this, which for a non-smartphone is crazy pricey. The screen is very bright, and I like the fact that the buttons are backlit. And it is kind of crazy that this has internet. Too small. But with a keypad this small, it's actually 5 minutes per word just to type out a search. And then we've got the smallest one of the bunch, a flip phone. Would you look at that? This is actually not bad. I mean, my thumb does cover the entire keypad in the front, but the screen looks decent, and it does have a much more normal, functional phone interface. And the best part of the flippy phone... Now we're getting even smaller. And I know this video is about the smallest tech in the world, but if you are enjoying it, then a sub to the channel would be Herculean. Oh, so this isn't a mini phone, but while I was browsing wish.com, I found apparently an iPhone, like a real iPhone, for $1. It does look a lot like a real iPhone. It feels a lot like a real iPhone. Oh my god. This is a fully working iPhone. If someone on wish.com is watching this, please explain to me what is the business model here? It's like the strangest mix of a scam and a charity at the same time. I think these are rather nice and packaged like my mum's curtains. This one is the slimmest mouse in the world. Unwind it, okay. It feels weird, like I'm pretty used to having something I can wrap my hands around. It feels like I'm pushing something along a table here. You've got a virtual scroll wheel in the middle. But there's more. I don't know why, this reminds me of like a block of cheese. This one's a wireless one, so you get a wireless one. Oh, that's it works. Oh, that's way better. There's something very nice as well about having a three-dimensional object to grip onto, as well as an actual physical scroll wheel. Much better. Really small ones now. So this is meant to be world's smallest TV. Oh dear. What have I got myself into? So this right here is the speaker. This is the battery. This is the remote control. It's so tiny. Put the circuit board inside. Yeah. Okay, I can build. Oh. Look at that. Can I change program? Oh my god. I built it, okay. Got that speaker. But I'm pretty sure that's not what I ordered. We'll take what we get. It's very small. Now I just need to find a phone with a headphone jack. LG to the rescue. Some of the few modern phones that do have headphone jacks. Even if... Okay, 3, 2, 1... That's pretty impressive. I like that. Okay, mysterious pile of bubble wrap. Ah, this is our camera. It does feel a lot more like a toy than I remember. Turns on. Do you know what though? It functions a lot like an actual camera. You've got a setting. The video is apparently 1080p. And for those of you who are wondering, this is what that looks like. I'm not hugely excited about the quality here, but I'm willing to forgive a lot for the price that I paid for this. I feel like now we're approaching miniature territory. So this is the controller for what I'm assuming, yep, is the drone. Okay, I am 99% sure that this doesn't actually, and therefore that this isn't actually a real camera, which means that I've been lied to. Oh dear, oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay, we've set up a bubble wrap finish line. I'm gonna try and drive it straight through and just see what happens. Oh my god, oh my god. I've got a surprising amount of control over this. Okay, let's go, let's go, let's go. Oh, oh. Oh no. No, that's me, that's me. Oh no. That was so close. That could have been Apple Pro Display XDR down the drain. And this is a miniature power bank. Look at it, so that's the micro USB cable. It's built inside of it. What else do you do with a power bank? Oh no, no, no! Very, very excited about this one. This is Pocket Sprite, and this is one of the world's smallest game consoles. That's beautiful. It's absolutely minuscule, but it kind of works, I guess because there's just not that many buttons on it. But like, just for some perspective, Game Boy, Pocket Sprite. I always wanted a transparent Game Boy when I was younger. I just thought it was like the coolest thing. And I'm trying to think what my reaction would have been if someone had rocked up to me then and handed me this. And finally... be our PS5. I know it's not going to do anything, but I'm strangely excited about this. It's amazing. And it actually feels like, I don't know what it's made of, but it's proper high quality. And you can also see every single port on the back of it. PS5. Mini PS5. And then we have iPad Pro and iPhone 12 Pro Max. Mini. It's just crazy. I don't know why I'm impressed. I mean, it's just a piece of plastic with a screen taped on top, but I'm just not used to seeing tablets of this dimension. And then our iPhone. What is this unboxing? The iPhone. Let me try and get closer. It's like a Tic Tac. You could probably follow this and wouldn't even notice. Alright, the moment you've all been waiting for. Big reveal. Show my tears now. Oh! It feels cold. We've got our temperature sensor here. Come around. So it is 18 degrees Celsius. 2 degrees below room temperature. We've been filming for 4 hours. Okay, never mind. Does anyone want a fridge? Okay, here's something to think about for a second. Your location, your operating system, every hardware detail of the device you're on right now, as well as all your past browsing history. These are things that you'd want to keep to yourself, right? Well, this is how much information a website immediately knows about you the second you click on it. And to be honest, if it's a website you trust, it's fine. But I'm willing to bet that there's a lot you visit that you probably don't. And that's where Surfshark VPN comes in. As far as I've seen, it's the most affordable way to keep yourself online. It's just over $2 a month for as many people and as many devices as you want. But there's another perk. Because I can effectively pick the location that I want my device to be from, I can, for example, pick the United States and watch US TV shows. You can effectively have the exclusives for every single region without leaving your home. Like if I wanted to watch Batman The Dark Knight, I just switch to Canada, and I can do that. So, check the link in the description, and if you use the code BOSS, you get an 83% discount and an extra 3 months for free. If you enjoyed this video, then here's an Instagram story that completely crashes. I'm about to spend $10,000 in the next 4 minutes buying the biggest, most giant tech that you've ever seen. Giant keyboard. That's amazing. This is the one. I've just got to figure out how to import it. Okay, so we're gonna need a huge mouse to go with that. Huge mouse. Oh my god. Oh, okay. It's not a mouse. That was alarming. Anyway. Ooh. I think we might have our winner here. Well, now I've got to get a giant mouse mat too. I can feel myself falling into the hole.